So today we're talking about how to be masculine in tantric intimacy. And most of you guys who are here already know what tantric intimacy is. But for anyone who's new, what is tantric intimacy versus regular intimacy? It's interesting. A lot of times we're not taught anything about sex. We're not taught anything about intimacy. And so we default to kind of a procreative model where you get together, you kind of rub up against each other. Maybe it's really passionate, but we don't really go deeper than that. And then that procreative model defaults to our primal desire to make babies, which of course, perhaps we don't really want to make babies or anything like that, but it's still that goal of ejaculation, that goal of orgasm, that goal of maybe satisfying the other person in some way, which is all good, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And that's kind of the most of our sexual intimacy, right? Tantra says we're so much more than that. That's just an option. If you want to make children, you can do this. If you maybe want to go to sleep at night and you need to become exhausted, you could do this. Or maybe it's just super fun, right? But Tantra says that's like 5% of what's possible. So imagine instead Tantra at its foundation is the merging of the divine and the physical. So first, of course, we live this in our real life. That's what Tantra really is. It's not really about relationships, sex, or golf, or anything else. It's really about living in this way that I walk through the world knowing that I am fully divine and I am here and I'm physical in the world. So now we bring this into intimacy, we bring it into relationships, and then what's possible, right? It literally makes everything infinitely possible after that, right? We have a husky in the other room who's playing with a cat. So if you hear howling, that's what's happening. So how does this work in lovemaking? And why are we talking about the masculine and feminine? So today's talk is about the masculine. The next talk is about being feminine. So now you imagine, so Tantra is about merging the divine and the physical. Well, the masculine and feminine are universal energies of creation. If you imagine the divine to be oneness, however you understand that this is the oneness of life. So this is the omnipotent God, omniscience, omnipresent, all that kind of thing. Again, no matter what religion you believe or what spirituality you believe, this is the oneness where we are all one. We all share a heart, all that. This is oneness. On a universal level, that oneness splits into duality. And this is how we are experiencing each other right now. We are in a different time and space. We get to experience, well, we're in a different space, same time. But as our talk continues, we will experience all of these ideas over time. This is duality. The two energies of duality are masculine and feminine. Nothing to do with gender, just masculine and feminine. The masculine energies act upon the feminine, which means I could be writing on a piece of paper. I could be picking up my glasses, right? The glasses are the feminine. I'm in the masculine. I'm interacting with these glasses. So the exciting thing about talking about the masculine and intimacy, which is just what we're going to focus on today, is when we polarize with another person into these masculine feminine dynamics, we are actually embracing duality. We're using the energy of duality to create something bigger. It's kind of like if I imagine this is the masculine, this is the feminine, like a yin yang symbol, right? Kind of like this. And if it's kind of small like that, that's cool, right? Imagine that there's a little bit of magnetism in there that's holding them together, right? Creating this interesting ball. Now imagine that the masculine becomes bigger, and then the feminine gets bigger, and the masculine gets bigger. And you can imagine the magnetism in here getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden, we're having this much greater experience. This is the point of polarizing. The bigger we can be in the masculine, the bigger the feminine is. And then we just get bigger and bigger. And the magnetism becomes so great. There's this sort of dance that happens here. This is the excitement. This is the foreplay. This is the fooling around. This is all the thing. This is intimacy. This is coitus. This is whatever you want to call it. But then as this continues to build between the masculine and feminine, all of a sudden the magnetism becomes so huge that it kind of, and you experience oneness. And you merge together. This is the goal of Tantric intimacy. It's an entirely different journey than simply procreative sex, recreational fun sex. It's a whole other thing. But it isn't something that you have to be enlightened for. Like, you don't have to be, some great guru or some great yogi to do it. It's something that all of us can play with right now. And so, for example, becoming more masculine in relationships and Tantric intimacy, obviously, it's all the same. There are little things we start doing right now. And as those little things start, our feminine partner will have the freedom to become more feminine. As we become a bit more masculine, our feminine partner can become more feminine. It goes vice versa too, but we're just talking about the masculine. So what does it mean to be masculine in relationship? First of all, each one of us has to be perfectly balanced in the masculine and feminine within us. If we are not fully balanced within us, we won't even want to become masculine in a relationship, right? Because we might have all of this feminine inside that we need satisfied, and that has to be done inside of us. But so that's why the journey of Tantra is really within, right? It's really a journey that has to happen first here, and then we expand into other. But we can still play with both at the same time. So what does the masculine look like? Well, the masculine is giving. The feminine receives. The masculine is structure. The feminine is chaos. The masculine leads. The feminine follows. The masculine pursues. The feminine is pursued. And all of these, initially you're kind of like, what? Leading and following, really? Like, we're really going back there? But we have to understand that this isn't some kind of weird inequality thing. So, for example, one of the chapters, so this whole talk, or the series of talks, is based in my book, The Divine Union of the Masculine and Feminine. And one of the chapters in here is all about chivalry. Now, chivalry is one of the most classic masculine-feminine dynamics in movies, in history, and all that kind of thing. And today, it's kind of poo-pooed, right? It's like, who wants to be chivalrous today? And in a lot of countries, and I'm just going on a male-female situation here, but all of these dynamics apply to all genders, all orientations, because the masculine-feminine dynamic is the same no matter what gender you are. The question is always, do you prefer to polarize to the masculine, or do you prefer to polarize to the feminine? And we'll talk a lot more about that in a later talk, and we'll go into depth about that. But today, let's assume that you love to be in the masculine. Well, chivalry is interesting because historically, back in the 1200s, chivalry was the code of knights. And the knights were considered to be a little bit better than the average person, right? They were sort of elevated above the average man. Of course, they were all men. And their jobs were they must honor the king, countrymen, and women. Why women? Well, what's interesting is back in the 1200s, women generally weren't treated very well, right? Maybe they were just there to have babies. Maybe they were just there to be slaves in the kitchen. They had no rights. People didn't necessarily believe they could even enjoy sexual intimacy, especially in the West. In the East, there's a different history there. And so the women were kind of just treated like slaves. They were disposable. You could just get another one. Kind of crappy, right? And so all of a sudden, the knights were like, no, I will treat the women better than they are treated elsewhere. And this was considered knightly conduct. They weren't doing it because the women were weak. They were doing it because women were meant to be honored. And this is what's really important, say, about being chivalrous today. If you're in a relationship with someone and you want to be in the masculine, it is as simple as opening the door for them, opening the car door for them, carrying the bags, offering to do something. And of course, in the world of inequality, which is what we've lived in this weird domination paradigm, which we also talk a lot about in this book, which is what really skews this masculine feminine a lot. In the domination paradigm, the feminine, the female, children, everyone, it's a whole other story, were oppressed. And there was no equality. And that's crazy, right? And all of a sudden, women were considered the weaker sex and all this nonsense. Chivalry is about knowing that you're absolutely equal. And I choose to do this for you because I love you, because I care about you. And I want you to know that I care about you. The woman or the feminine partner in the relationship, she doesn't receive it because she can't do it. Of course she can open the door. Of course she can carry her own bags. She receives it because she wants to experience that masculine energy coming in. And that's the foundation of this whole talk, is when the masculine energy actually is applied to the feminine or is given to the feminine or leads the feminine, all these beautiful things, the feminine is energized by it. This cover of my book, this was painted by a beautiful artist named Gina Murray. And when I first asked her, I said, I want a yin-yang symbol. But notice how the yin-yang symbol is flowing. This is really important because this flowing of the masculine, the yang, into the feminine and vice versa. It's alive. It's dynamic. This is the difference. That when the masculine energy flows into the feminine, it cycles, right? And then there's this beautiful dynamism that's happening between the people. That's the magnetism. That's the flow. And that's what we want to have happen. When you have this dynamic energy flowing, that's when it starts to speed up and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Both people actually have to surrender to that movement once it starts happening. And then you sort of reach these ecstatic states, these orgasmic states. You long forget about this idea of sort of having a ejaculatory orgasm. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's so much more. And that's why this masculine and feminine dynamic is so powerful. Once that starts tipping over, then magic starts happening. And that's why with the chivalry question, people often ask, they're like, well, it seems kind of one-sided. I mean, if I'm the feminine partner, I can open the door for my partner and all that. And you can. But then that keeps that yin-yang symbol still. It's not flowing. It's just still. I'm doing this for you. You're doing this for me. I'm in the masculine. You're in the masculine. I'm in the masculine. You're in the masculine. So you can see the energy just sort of goes back and forth like a tennis match. But when you leave it one-sided, when the masculine partner is the one who is being chivalrous, and that energy starts to flow, and the feminine partner receives it, and this keeps flowing and keeps flowing, now you're playing in universal flow. Just like in an electrical current, one part plugs into the feminine, right? And it flows into the ground. You have to have a positive and negative for energy to flow. The goal is the flow. Before we get into more details, there's two things I want to talk about why this is so powerful. The first is it's empowering. If you prefer to be in the masculine polarity, in a relationship, in intimacy, every time you step into that giving role. Every time you plan something, every time you're chivalrous, every time you pursue, every time you do this, it is empowering. It is energizing. It's like that is how you access the universal energy inside of you. It's like you have this infinite well, and every time you dip into it, it energizes your whole body. It's like everything becomes stronger, everything becomes more alive. This is the point. We have become really comfortable in our society, that almost the goal of life is comfort. The goal of life is falling asleep in front of Netflix. It's this sort of quiet thing. And we've forgotten what it feels like to be alive. We've forgotten about the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of building something, the thrill of discovering new lands. We've forgotten about this. This is the power of the masculine, right? One of the dynamics is to be always in pursuit of your partner. This is a huge deal. This is the primary reason that romance goes out of a relationship, right? Because the energy dies. Why does the energy die? Because the masculine partner stops pursuing the feminine, if they ever did. Sometimes they pursue during dating. Sometimes they never pursued at all. People kind of fell together, or the feminine partner actually pursued, which is also very common. But the masculine partner never actually rose up into the masculine dynamic, and eventually it all just falls flat. When the masculine partner is in pursuit of the eternally mysterious feminine, romance is always alive. The passion gets bigger and bigger and bigger because the feminine by nature is mysterious. And this is inside us too, right? Even if you're in the masculine, you inside of you have a masculine side and a feminine side. You have an eternally mysterious feminine side within. This is actually our spiritual journey. This is our journey here on earth personally, is to perpetually pursue our own mysterious center. And that mysterious center might say, I want to open that business. I want to learn Spanish. I want to go do this thing. And you perpetually pursue the mystery within yourself. And that's what makes our life alone very interesting. If we want to create something bigger between you and another person, then you pursue the mystery of that other person, if you're in the masculine. And it's one of the most dangerous things we do when we think we know the other person. Oh yeah, well, I've been with them for like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I know them. We are always changing. We are always growing. We are always having new aha moments. When you perpetually pursue them, they wake up as well, right? It is very exciting. So pursuit of your partner is more like heading out on a sailing ship to see what other islands are out there. You don't have to know what you're looking for. You just have to try. You just have to buy flowers, take them out for dinner, offer to give a massage, do something, and you will discover something about your partner you never knew before. Or you'll discover a different nuance of this other person's body. Because again, our bodies are always changing. Everything is always shifting. And maybe that thing you did last time doesn't work this time. And so you try something different. And this is exciting. Again, we've all become kind of lazy in our masculine because we've been trained that the idea is sort of comfort, homeostasis. I just want to relax. It's like, but that's not exciting. That's not what makes us feel alive. What makes us feel alive is we're with our partner and maybe we did this one thing last time, but it's not working this time. And now we have to dig deep and go, okay, I'm going to try this other thing. Or maybe I'll just brush their hair, or I'll give them a massage, or I'll try this weird thing that I heard about. Who knows? But that's the excitement, right? That we keep trying, that we keep going, that we feel alive. The other interesting thing about pursuit is that we can't take a no too personally. You know, And right now I'm talking about, let's say you're in a relationship already. Let's say you're like, hey, do you want to go to bed early tonight? And we'll, something, something. And maybe your partner's like, actually, I'm really tired tonight. That we don't get shut down and say, oh, well, I guess I won't even try tomorrow night, right? The feminine partner has to be able to say no, or else their yeses mean nothing. You don't even know if they even want it. You don't even know if they're in the mood. And this is where it's really interesting being in the masculine. Because the masculine, this is a huge dynamic shift, is that the masculine actually is there to read the partner, right? The feminine is the one that's this is Mother Earth. And the masculine says, what does Mother Earth desire today? Not what do I want to do to Mother Earth? Again, this is the domination paradigm that we've lived with for so long. And again, if you want to read about that, I recommend reading my book because it's not really the topic of today's talk. So what the masculine wants to do is make Mother Earth shine. That's the goal. This is the difference. When we want to have procreative sex or whatever, we just want to inseminate. We just want to ejaculate. We just want to have an orgasm. We want to make you have an orgasm. It's very goal-oriented. In tantric intimacy, the primary goal is connection. That's what we desire. We want to create that true magnetism between each other. So instead, the masculine is reading the feminine, and they can still come in with a desire. I would love to go to bed early. Are you interested? Would you love to do that? Not really. I'd really love to connect with you. Do you want to cuddle? Do you want to hang out? Can I give you a massage? What can we do? And maybe the answer is actually, yeah, a massage would be awesome. Or it's actually, I really need to have some downtime. And then the masculine partner, because they're already whole, says, awesome. Well, I'll check in with you later, or we'll try tomorrow, or whatever, right? It doesn't matter because they're already whole. Their happiness isn't codependent on the other partner saying yes, right? And this is really important. This is the second big reason that being able to polarize into the masculine is so important, and the feminine, but we're talking about the masculine, is because this is what creates true connection. Part of this domination paradigm we've lived in for millennia creates a massive separation between us. And even people that we've fallen in love with, that we're sexually intimate with, that we've decided we're going to live together for the rest of our life or for as long as we want to, we're actually very separate from them. We're energetically separate. We're emotionally separate. We're afraid to share our deepest, darkest secrets or our most exciting secrets our hopes and our dreams. There's this weird separation, which is caused by this desire to dominate, to control the other person, to make them want what we want. And this is where when we're pursuing our partner, the pursuit is still based on the person we're pursuing, right? So if you're going to pursue this partner, you're going to know what they love. Maybe they love a foot rub. Maybe they love having dinner made for them. Maybe they love going out for dinner. Maybe they love having a tub and they just love chit-chatting, and having a glass of wine together. You're going to pursue them in ways that they want to be pursued. It's almost like every day is an eternal first date, that you really want them to be happy. Because people who like being in the masculine love making their partner smile. That's the goal. It's not a selfish thing. It's not I want to pursue you because I want to get lucky. I want to pursue you because I want to connect with you. You, not an object, not just the object of my desire. You, the human. You, this beautiful divine being. How can I connect with you? This is the goal. This is the divine masculine, seeking the divine feminine. This is very different. It's a very different dynamic. So now suddenly you have like the masculine Shiva, seeking Parvati or whatever, Shiva and Shakti, whatever story you want to look at. And the masculine is pursuing the feminine, and the feminine is receiving this pursuit. And this beautiful dynamic happens, and then there's a dance, and then there's lovemaking. And again, it doesn't even matter how you make love. This isn't a thing. The details are irrelevant. It's about the energy. And when Shakti or Parvati or the feminine feels pursued in this really loving way, she opens and she expands to receive it. And then the energy gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a very, very different dynamic than what we normally imagine pursuit and lovemaking to be. So I'd love to talk about the dynamics of structure and chaos. So this is a really beautiful masculine-feminine dynamic. Masculine is structure. Chaos is feminine. Chaos, mystery, the unknown. So what is chaos? Chaos is the infinite potential. This is where everything is born. This is the lack of structure in the world. This is amazing, chaotic nature, right? This is an ocean swell. This is a storm. And all of these things to us feel very scary, right? Because again, we've been taught to fear the feminine. We've been taught to fear nature. So now imagine the feminine is all that is mysterious, all that is chaotic, but not in a negative way. This isn't a bad thing. This is pure potential of life. So structure, or masculine, is stillness, structure. Not structure to encapsulate chaos, but the structure that supports chaos to go wild, right? The wilder chaos goes, the stronger the structure becomes. So in a heterosexual model, this is where the journey of non-ejaculation comes in. Because when the masculine is inserted into the feminine naturally becomes chaotic, or she's already chaotic. This is where they talk about how women are multi-orgasmic and maybe men are only singularly orgasmic. None of it's true, but that's sort of the only way we understand it in this procreative model. That women seem to be able to have an orgasm this way and this way and this way and this way. The feminine is pure chaos. The feminine can have orgasmic states in 1,000 million ways. The key is that in a tantric connection, the masculine and feminine unite. The energy of the masculine partner, and it doesn't have to be heterosexual. This can be same sex, this can be anything, because the masculine energy energizes the feminine. You connect, and now you share an energy. So now this energy connects with Mother Earth. Mother Earth explodes in all of her chaos and infinite energy. And now, through this connection, through this magnetic connection, you ride the wave together, right? This is an entirely different world. The key for the masculine is you are the energy coming in. So back to the heterosexual model, the Vajra or the penis which is Sanskrit for thunderbolt, is now inserted into the feminine. She will start to kind of get this orgasmic feeling if they're connected, right? If there's actually been lots of foreplay and there's lots of magnetism between them, right? Lots of magnetism. All of a sudden this goes in and, right? Well, if he's connected to her, if he doesn't have mastery over his Vajra, if he's not connected to the spirit and the energy within, he's just going to explode. This is how we're designed for procreative sex. This is how babies are made. This is how animals have sex. It's normal. But if the goal is to make something bigger, you want to develop the ability to be in there. And instead of exploding and joining the chaos, you become stillness. You become structure. You become power inside of that. And this is a huge deal, right? Because for me, when I first started discovering this myself in relationship, the man would, be inside and I could almost feel him starting to lose it. So what would I do? I would slow down my excitement, right? You have to slow it down, because if he's too excited, it's all going to be over. So I make myself smaller to allow him to kind of gather himself. And today's talk isn't about learning how to control your orgasm. I've actually, or not an orgasm, your ejaculation. It's important to know that those are separate. I wrote a book about that called Premature Ejaculation, Discovering Your Mastery. It's funny. I should have looked up what the name of my book was. But anyway, I wrote a little book about this, all about developing your own mastery, overcoming premature ejaculation. That's what it was. But when you can become that still, strong place, when you can become the center of the hurricane, and you can say to your partner, it's all good, I've got you. This is so empowering. And again, the journey to get there is empowering. It's almost like getting all of your ducks in a row and all the guns are kind of pointed in the same direction and you are solid. And from that solid state, and you say this to your partner, she will be able to just expand into all the wildness of the universe. Like, this is sort of where intimacy is a macrocosm of a microcosm of the macrocosm. That when you access the divine masculine energy of the universe, she then, and I'm saying she, all genders, depending on how you're orienting here, she then can access the divine feminine, the absolute expansiveness of all the wildness and mystery. This is why the structure and chaos then builds upon each other, right? The stronger the masculine, the wilder the feminine. The wilder she becomes, the stronger the masculine has to become. And this gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Then you reach a kind of a summit almost. And that's where the masculine and feminine disappear and you become one. And you actually experience this incredible union, which is not, I can't describe it, but it's just this. One partner, he once called it, he just said, and poof, it all disappears. And you're just sort of holding on to each other for dear life. This is within all of our abilities. But as the masculine partner, you want to develop that structure, that stillness. So how do we do that? In life, right? This is walking through life. And when something's going crazy at work, find your stillness. Find your strength. Find your inner power. Find the quiet within. If you're out in the world and someone needs help and they're completely, just really upset or they're really traumatized, you be the center. This is something that we practice in life, and then we can practice it in the bedroom. We do it within ourselves. Maybe you have emotions that kind of go wild. To practice in meditation, to find that center, to meditate. Meditation is a very interesting thing, and it's a very valuable tool to develop the masculine because it's a stillness. And maybe you have a lot of emotions that have been oppressed. And that's a thing, right? Especially if you're a man. Lots of women had it too, but men have to really oppress their emotions as children in our current society. Hopefully that's not where we're going. Now, all of a sudden, you've got this powder keg of emotions down here that are unconsciously driving us, right? And suddenly we're angry about this and we're frustrated about that, and I don't know what to do about that. So when we meditate and you set an alarm for 10 minutes and you say, I am going to sit in my silence, and ideas come up and thoughts come in and whatever comes in, and you just, that's okay. And you become the center of the hurricane. You become the center of the emotions, and you sit in it and practice being that stillness. When you can develop it yourself with your own emotions, your own chaos, your own wildness, your own unhealed trauma, maybe. Then when you're with a partner and you start to feel that wildness in them, you now have a visceral response about how to develop that powerful masculine within yourself. It's a huge deal. And this is why it's so interesting talking about tantric intimacy or tantric sex, because as much as it might be about sex and you apply it to sex, it's never about that. It's just one aspect of who we are that we take into our life, we take out into the world, we take into intimacy, right? It's all the same. We're the same person in the bedroom as we are in the boardroom, as we are in the kitchen, as we are in the street. We're the same person. Another dynamic I want to talk about is leading and following. And leading and following is really interesting because, I used to teach ballroom dance and Latin dance. And so in the beginning, so if you were to imagine, let's say you have a partner and you're playing with this. In the beginning, you're both kind of learning the steps. The masculine partner is kind of figuring out what's the lead. And the feminine partner is trying to figure out, so what does it mean to be in the feminine, really? And you're sort of co-dancing for a while as you figure it out. Like, we don't expect someone, if they walk into a dance studio, to just know how to salsa. But we sometimes do that with lovemaking, that you're just supposed to know. It's like, it's not really fair, right? So in the beginning in dancing, the person who wants to lead, they have to learn their steps. And the person that wants to follow, they have to learn their steps. But what's even more interesting is the leader has to learn confidence in their lead. The feminine has to learn how to surrender to the leader. But the feminine doesn't surrender to a leader who isn't confident yet. You kind of co-dance until you're both ready, until the leader sort of has it figured out and they can read the feminine. Then the feminine says, oh, wow, this person's really leading me. I can release into surrender now. So I want to give you an example from my book. And again, it's a heterosexual example just for simplicity. So let's imagine you have a cousin who's a great dancer and you're at a wedding and this amazing salsa song comes on and he's been dying to dance all night. And he sees this woman across the room with a really cool kind of salsa dress and she's got dancing shoes on, because we have very specific dancer shoes that have a nice felt bottom that these people dance, right? So he looks and he goes across the room and he says, would you like to dance? And she says, sure. Well, at this point, the leader doesn't know if she's actually a good dancer, right? He doesn't know if she just simply has nice shoes and a nice dress. So what does he do? What does a good leader do? He kind of feels her out, right? And not in a weird way. But he starts to dance. They're kind of nice distance apart and he starts doing some simple moves and he realizes, oh, she does know how to dance. And then he changes it up and he maybe does a couple spins and she knows that. And she's realizing, wow, this guy, he's a good leader. I might just relax into the follow here. I'm not going to co-dance with him. And then he realizes, oh, she's actually following me. Awesome. And he becomes a bit more confident. So he tries something else. And she's like, oh, this is fun. And so he says, oh, she's liking this. And all of a sudden you can see this magnetic dance happening between them. And all of a sudden he leads more, she follows more, he leads more, she follows more. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's a union, there's a merging. And when you watch them dance, it is like watching a singular unit dancing, and it is exhilarating to watch, right? When that merge happens between them, it's absolutely amazing. So let's say that song ends, they go off, he goes and sits down, and the next song that comes on is a beautiful waltz. And he looks over in the corner, and there's Grandma. And he knows Grandma would love to do a waltz. So he goes over to Grandma. Do you want to dance? Yes. Up they go. Well, he's not going to just dance with her like he danced with the salsa dancer. He's going to read Grandma. Grandma's a bit shorter than he is. She moves a bit slower. So he changes the way he holds her. And then what does he do? He slowly leads her until she realizes, oh, he's really paying attention to me. Oh, no, he's really good at this. Okay, I'm going to relax into this follow. And then he does a few turns with her, and he does this, he does that. And she's like, oh, this is lovely. And all of a sudden, she completely relaxes into the follow. He completely relaxes into the lead. And all of a sudden, they two are now in this beautiful union. And you watch them, and your heart just opens, and it's absolutely beautiful. So in lovemaking, there's a similar dance that you initiate. Initiating is a huge part of the masculine in lovemaking. You initiate the lovemaking. You do the things that maybe you know she loves, or he, depending on how you're oriented. And you do these beautiful things to your partner, and the partner is responding and they're like, oh, yes. Or maybe you do something and they don't like it and they kind of are like, not that. And you're like, okay, cool. And you shift into something else and then they relax again, right? What we're doing is we're allowing our partner to know we're paying attention. We're reading you. My desire is to connect with you. My desire is to bring you pleasure. And bit by bit, the feminine partner relaxes and surrenders to the lead. Your feminine partner will feel such incredible bliss in that surrender. Because what happens is the feminine partner's body opens. It's like opening to a spring rain. And all of a sudden, all the cells become incredibly sensitive, energetically, physically, emotionally, everything. And the masculine partner feels that. Because again, we're not just connecting like end to end. You're connecting, you're merging together. So all the energy you're moving in is going into all those cells. And as the feminine partner opens, it's like the feminine partner's energy envelops the masculine. And you become this yin-yang symbol. You become like this dynamic symbol where the feminine is actually enveloping the masculine, and the masculine's energy is going in. And it's this beautiful, beautiful dance. And it's so interesting because the only way the feminine enwraps the masculine is through surrender. It's the surrendering energy that is so powerful. But we only surrender when the masculine is truly leading. So it's a fascinating dynamic because we often think of the leading and following, that the leader is in control. Because again, this is just a leftover from our domination paradigm. But the leading is simply, it's leading the dance. But it's based in the feminine. And then the feminine enwraps the masculine, and then the true energy flows. It's very fascinating. One of the dynamics is, how do you lead, right? And this is inspiration and manifestation. You lead intuitively. We don't lead by things we've known before or things we saw in movies or porn or something like that. We lead intuitively. And it's very simple. I remember reading a book by Barry Long, The Art of Love, or no, Making Love, it was called. And he talked about how the bodies know how to make love. The last thing you want is your brain in the way. So you get together, and what is this leading and following? You trust your body. You let the body touch. You let the body move. You let the body feel and experience whatever it's experiencing. And then just listen within. And again, this is why in life, you want to have all of these dynamics in balance in your own life first, right? You can develop them in tandem, but it's really important to practice this in life. So for example, the inspiration manifestation paradigm or dynamic. Inspiration is the feminine. I receive an idea, I manifest it. Do you do that in life? Do you have an idea and do you make it happen? Do you get an idea? Do you make the call? Do you open the business? Do you do the thing? This is really important to practice in life. Because when we practice it in life, then suddenly we're in the bedroom and we practice it in the bedroom. But we've already been practicing it in life. I know what inspiration and manifestation feels like. Inspiration and manifestation manifests even in how we speak. Maybe we're having a difficult conversation. How do I know what to say? How do I know how to fix this? You listen within, you ask for guidance, and something comes and you say it. It's the same in lovemaking. What do I do next? Should I do this? Do I touch this? Do I kiss here? What do I do? Maybe you get a vision. Maybe words come. Maybe your hands just simply move. Maybe you're more tactile than visual. And you just flow with it. Because we're accessing a different dimension of who we are. But it is within each of us. So this is a really beautiful dynamic to get to practice in life. And then you're making love with your partner and you listen within. And maybe you just move here and then you move there and you're not in your head. You're intuitively just moving. But again, when we practice that in life, it becomes way easier to do in the bedroom. The last thing I want to mention is there's something really interesting about being in the masculine and giving 100% of who you are. And again, there's a personal journey there, right? Do I hold back in life? Do I give 100% to my own life? If I maybe give 70% of myself in my regular life and I'm kind of holding 30 back because maybe I have pain, maybe I have unresolved trauma, maybe I have fears in life, that's probably all I have to give in the bedroom too, right? And this isn't like a self-deprecation thing. This is just an awareness that, you know what? I do want to be able to give 100%. I want to give 100% of myself all the time in lovemaking, in life, and everything. So this becomes a really interesting journey because again, in this yin-yang symbol, if I'm only giving 70%, then my partner can only receive 70%. If I can only be 70% of that strong structure, my partner can only go 70% into her wild or his wild, right? So it's really important on a personal level, because again, all study of Tantra, all study of the divine masculine and feminine is always a personal study first. We don't have to have a partner. We don't have to have anything like that. It's all within. And so we begin in life and we're like, where are the places I'm holding back? Maybe I'm only at 50%. I know personally, when I first got married, it's like I kind of shrunk to about 10% of who I really was. And this was no fault of my husband. This was me. This was me becoming married and shrinking to what I believed a wife's role was. Shrinking because I now lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere and I really couldn't expand into who I was. Or maybe it's just because I was only 23 and I just didn't know better. But bit by bit over time, my whole life's goal has been sort of to expand bigger and bigger and bigger until I can maybe become my whole self, which of course is the journey of Tantra. And we can see it in the bedroom, we can see it in our life, we can see it at work. But it's a very exciting thing that even the next time you're making love, just sort of ask yourself, how much of myself is here? Is there a part of me that's distracted? Is there a part of me that's kind of somewhere else right now? And then all we have to do is bring ourselves here. That's the discipline. That's the excitement. Okay, I'm going to bring myself here. What would it take to bring my whole self here and actually just make love with this beautiful person I'm with? Maybe it means coming in and actually being in our bodies, getting out of our head, feeling our skin, feeling what's happening. Maybe that's what has to happen. Or maybe we have to come into our breath. Or maybe we have to kiss our partner. We have to do something different to just bring ourselves here and practice being 100% here.